Yeah. So hello everyone. So now we are going to look on C++ OOP. So basically OOP stands for Object Oriented Programming. So there was a thing called procedure programming, which was about writing procedures or functions that perform operations on the data. So while object oriented programming is about creating objects that can contain both data and functions. Yeah. So OOP is much faster, easier to execute, provides a clear structure for the programs, and helps the C++ code write. Yeah, don't repeat yourself. So it's gonna make the code not much redundant. So a lot of things can be reduced. We can reduce the repetition of code. So what are classes and objects? So this is the important or the basic concepts that is present in OOP. So it is nothing but classes and objects. Objects are those which are like the actual objects, which can be apple, banana, or mango in this case. So apple, banana, and mango are the part of a fruit family, so that family can be called as a class here. So the class of these apple, banana, mango can be considered as a fruit. So object are the different items in a list. So in a list or a data set, so a class is the combination of those objects. So another example is these are the names of the cars. So the car itself is a class. So everything is associated with class along with its attributes and methods. Yeah, so it's the same thing here. So now, yeah, so now we are going to create a class. To create a class, use the class keyword. So class is a keyword that you will be using to create a class. So to use the term called class or keyword class along with its class name, and there are three terms in C++ as I know, which is private, public, and protected. Yeah, those things have their own attributes or attributes. So public can be accessed by any another class or outside this class itself. Private can be only accessed within the class, and protected is it does have other attributes. So I think we'll be looking on further lessons. So yeah, so it's the something. So public is called something as access specifier. So access specifier basically means what attributes can be accessed in the class or outside the class. So in this case it's public, so it can be accessed anywhere. So in this public access specifier there are two variables, which is an integer and a string. Integer takes some number and string takes some strings. So as we have created the class here, it's important to call an object. So that's what we need to get to know what object that we are looking onto. So this is how you create a class. So, and this is how you create the object of the class. So write the class name all and give a space and write the object name itself. And to access any attributes within the class, I'm just gonna give a period to it and write or call the variable itself for the attribute itself. So if I want to access my number, so I can just take it as my number, and if I want to access string, it's my string. So the same thing is for the printing those values. So these are multiple objects, and so multiple objects can be created. So this is the first object, this is the second object, and yeah, in this example there is only two objects, and then we can also create multiple objects for a single class. Yeah, in the previous example it was for the fruits. So we'll be doing the exercise at the last of this lecture. So methods. So methods are nothing but the function that belongs to the class. So there are two ways to define function: inside class and the outside the class. So inside class is the type of function that I'm declaring inside the class itself, and I can also create a method outside the class. So this is how you create a method outside the class, by giving two semicolons. Yeah. So here I'm just gonna call it, and here I'm defining it. So after I'm defining the class outside the class, then I can create the object of the class, and I can call the function or call the method. Yeah. So we'll move on. It's the same thing for parameters. It's same thing that we looked into, the function in the first part. Yeah. So there is something called as constructors. So a constructor in C++ is a special method that is automatically called when an object of a class is created. So it gets automatically called, so we not need to access or call the function. We just gonna create the object of the class, then it will call the function by itself. This is why constructors are used. So we can also pass in parameters to those constructors. So it's the same thing that it calls by itself. So we can just pass in the parameters to the object and it will call on its own. And to access those values, we just need to specify what object that we are going to use. So these are the examples of the same thing, and this is to create the constructor outside the class. So these are the access specifiers. So this is a public access specifier. So public members are accessible from outside the class, and private members cannot be accessed from outside the class, but can be viewed outside the class and can be accessed within the class itself. And this is the protect access specifier. Members cannot be accessed from outside the class, however they can be accessed in inherited classes. So if there is a child child of the class, that can be accessed by it. So inheritance will be later, as it said. So if I'm declaring a variable y which is in the private access specifier, so I cannot call it here, and if you want to allow call it, it will give an error called as y is private, so you cannot access it outside the class. So we are looking at encapsulation. So the meaning of encapsulation is to make sure that sensitive data is hidden from the users. So it just protects or encrypts your data from the user. To achieve this, you must declare class variables attribute as private. So if you declare those variables in the private access specifier, basically you cannot access those, so it will be protected. So if you want others to read or modify the value of a private member, you can provide public get set methods. So get and set methods can be used to get the data and set some value to the data. So private in salary setter. So here I am calling the setter function to assign some value to the salary here, and this is the getter function to access that value. Yeah. So this is how I'm going to do it. So in private it will be I'm just going to define the variable, and in public access page I'm not defining any variables. I'm just defining and declaring the methods here. So that will be used to set the value to the variable, and also return the value of the particular variable. Yeah, I think I'll just do the exercise. So create class called my class. Class my class. Create an object of my class called my object. My class and my object. Use an access specifier to make members of the class accessible from the outside class. So it will be public. Create an object of my class called my object. My class and the object name obj. Use it to set the value of my number to 15. So I'm calling the object of the class. Call in my num variable and assign it 15. So now I'm going to create a function named my method with no return value. So the data type which returns no value is called as void. So it will not return any value to the function or method. So the method name is my method here. Then use my object to call my method. My object to call my method inside the main function. Create a constructor of my class and call it. So constructor is the name or the name of the constructor should be the same as I defined in the class name. So it's gonna be this my class my class. Use access specifier to set the x variable to public. It should be public and y to private. Okay, I did not write the colons. Yeah. So the car class should inherit the attributes and methods from the vehicle class. Fill in the missing part to make this possible. So we did not get into this section here, so we are going to see now. So